snow fell in soft, quiet flakes the night 12-year-old Oliver Grayson disappeared. The police searched for days, combing every inch of Pine Hollow, but the only thing they found was his mitten, perfectly placed at the bottom of the old sledding hill, right where the woods began. His parents never stopped hoping. Every December, they lit a lantern on their porch, the same blue lantern Oliver had made in art class 2 weeks before he vanished. They said the light would guide him home. For 5 years, the lantern stayed lit. And every Christmas Eve, someone knocked on their door at exactly 10:19 p.m., the time Oliver disappeared, but no one was ever there. This year, Oliver's older sister Emma returned home from college. She didn't believe in signs or hauntings or Christmas miracles. She believed in closure. She believed her brother was gone. Still, when 10:19 p.m. approached, the family gathered in the living room, candles lit, tree glowing softly in the dark. Emma stared at the front door. 10:17, 10:18. Her mother whispered, "If it happens again, don't answer it. We never answer." 10:19. A knock. 3 soft raps, evenly spaced. Emma's heart hammered. She told herself it was a prank, kids messing around. But there was something wrong about the sound. Something hollow. Something cold. Her father whispered, "Stay here." He walked to the door, shoulders shaking. He didn't open it, just looked through the peephole. Then he froze. Emma rushed to his side. Her father stepped back, pale. "Don't look." Emma didn't listen. She leaned forward and stared through the peephole. A boy stood in the snow, feet bare, clothes thin. His skin pale blue, lips split, eyes wide and glassy like lake ice. It looked like Oliver. It looked exactly like him, but older, aged 5 years, as if he had been growing up somewhere far colder. The boy raised a hand and knocked again. 3 slow taps. Emma stumbled back. "Dad, that's Oliver." Her mother sobbed and covered her mouth. No, it isn't. We buried his things. Another knock. Louder this time. Emma whispered, "He needs help. He's freezing." Her father grabbed her wrist. "Emma, listen to me. We saw what you saw, but that's not your brother." Emma tore free, adrenaline drowning out every warning. She unlocked the deadbolt before anyone could stop her. The moment the latch clicked, the knocking stopped. Silence. Emma opened the door. The winter air hit her like a fist. The porch was empty. Snow blew across the steps. She looked left, right, into the yard. Nothing. No footprints. No boy. But the blue lantern flickered violently. Its flame stretched upward, pulled by something unseen. Her mother cried out, "Close the door!" Emma reached for the handle. Then she heard it, breathing. Behind her. Slow, icy breaths that formed frost on the back of her neck. Emma turned. A trail of wet, melting snow led from the doorway into the living room, across the rug, toward the Christmas tree. Her parents screamed. The tree lights flickered. The ornaments rattled. A small figure stood behind the tree, half hidden in the shadows, dripping melted snow onto the floor. His hair hung in frozen strands. His eyes, once brown, reflected the lights like polished ice. He stepped forward, body shaking violently as if the warmth of the house hurt him. Emma choked out, "Oliver?" The boy stared at her. Then he whispered, voice brittle and cracking like breaking icicles. "You didn't come find me?" Emma's mother collapsed, sobbing. Her father backed away, shaking. Emma reached out a trembling hand. "Oliver, I didn't know where you were. Please talk to me." Oliver opened his mouth. Snow poured out. Not flakes. Chunks. Like someone had packed snow deep into his throat. He staggered toward her. Emma screamed and stumbled backwards, slipping on the wet rug. Her father grabbed her and pulled her behind him. Oliver's head twitched sharply to the side. Then his voice twisted into something older, colder, deeper. "The wood kept me." Emma whispered, "What woods?" Oliver lifted an arm and pointed at the front door. "At the forest. At the sledding hill." Then he stepped backward, one unnatural step at a time, and vanished into a burst of snow that swept across the room like a freezing gust. The lights went out. The house went silent. When they turned the lights back on, the snow on the rug was already melting, and Oliver was gone. The police never believed them. No one would. But every Christmas Eve since, at 10:19 p.m., the family hears the same 3 knocks. And every year, they find a single small footprint in the snow, leading toward the woods. Never away from them. Before we move on to the next story, give us your verdict on this one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. The snowfall on December 23rd was so heavy it muted everything. Traffic, voices, even the world itself. It fell in thick curtains, soft and beautiful. The kind of snow people wrote Christmas cards about. But Detective Aaron Cole hated nights like this. Every year for the past 3 Christmases, on the night before Christmas Eve, someone left a gift-wrapped box on the steps of the Cedarwood police station. No return address, no footprints in the snow, no security footage, nothing. Inside each box was a small wooden toy, hand-carved, old-fashioned, the kind sold in the 1950s, a toy train, a wooden top, a little soldier. And on top of each toy, a single handwritten note, "For the one you lost." Every year, someone in Cedarwood disappeared around Christmas. A hiker, a student, a delivery driver. Their bodies were never found. And every year a box arrived. Tonight, Aaron was the only officer still on duty. Everyone else was out responding to weather-related accidents. He sat at his desk, staring at the window as snow piled halfway up the glass. At 11:32 p.m., he heard a soft thump outside the front doors. A package. He knew it instantly. He walked slowly to the entrance, heart tightening. As expected, a small box covered in old Christmas papers sat on the step. No tracks in the snow. The paper was patterned with faded Santas and pine trees. It looked like it had been wrapped decades ago. Aaron carried it inside, set it on his desk, and stared at it for a long time before finally cutting the tape. Inside lay a wooden reindeer, hand-carved, painted in chipped red and gold. And the note. "For the one you lost." Aaron closed his eyes. His brother Liam had vanished 12 years ago on Christmas Eve. They were kids. Liam had run into the woods behind their house during a game of hide-and-seek and never came out. Aaron had never forgiven himself. He picked up the reindeer. It was heavier than the others, the wood darker, old, ancient almost. He tilted it in his hands, and something clicked inside it. A latch. He pried it open with his thumb. Inside was a small rolled piece of paper, tied with a brittle red thread. He untied it carefully and unrolled it. A map, a crude hand-drawn sketch of a familiar place. The woods behind his childhood home. At the center of the map was an X. Aaron's breath faltered. "What the hell?" The station lights flickered. A gust of wind slammed against the windows, shaking the glass violently. The snow outside blew sideways as if pushed by something massive. Then Aaron heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching in the snow outside the station. He grabbed his flashlight and peered out. Nothing but swirling white. Then another sound drifted through the storm, soft and high, like a child humming a Christmas song out of tune. "Silent night, holy night." Aaron's skin crawled. He buttoned his coat, grabbed his keys, and headed into the storm. The humming grew louder as he approached the tree line behind the station. The snow seemed deeper here, heavier, like it didn't want him to walk further. The woods swallowed the sound of his steps, but the humming kept going. He followed the map's crude directions. past an old fence, around a frozen creek, toward a large crooked pine tree leaning at an unnatural angle. And there it was. The spot marked with an X. The snow was disturbed here, fresh, as if something had been digging. Aaron knelt down and brushed the snow aside. Beneath the top layer, he found something solid. Wood. He dug faster. A wooden door. Small. Too small for an adult. It looked like the entrance to a crawl space, or a cellar built decades ago. His flashlight flickered as he pulled it open. A breath of icy air rushed out. He pointed the light inside. A narrow tunnel stretched downward, carved out of frozen earth. Wood beams supported the sides, but some were broken, splintered outward as if something much stronger had forced its way through. A faint glow flickered from far below. And then, a voice carried up. High, young, familiar. Aaron. His entire body went numb. It was Liam's voice. Not older. Not changed. The voice of an 8-year-old boy. Aaron, help me. No, Aaron whispered. No, that's not possible. But the voice called again, weaker now. Aaron, please. He stepped into the tunnel. Every instinct screamed to run, but guilt pushed him deeper, his flashlight beam shaking along the narrow walls. The humming started again, echoing from somewhere below. Odd silent night, holy night. He reached a small chamber at the bottom and froze. Children stood inside. 8 of them. All wearing old tattered winter clothes, pale, eyes dull and clouded, skin gray-blue with frostbite. They stood motionless. Except one. A small boy stepped forward. Aaron dropped the flashlight. Liam. It was him. Exactly as he remembered. Same hair, same coat, same little red mittens. But Liam's eyes were wrong. Too glossy, reflecting no light, like frozen marbles. Aaron, Liam whispered again, voice strained, as if forced out by something behind him. You came. Aaron stepped closer, tears burning his eyes. Liam, I'm here, I'm right here. The boy's head twitched. Then his jaw cracked sideways with a sickening sound. Shouldn't have, he whispered. Come alone. The other children turned their heads in unison. The humming stopped. A scraping sound echoed from the tunnel behind Aaron, like long fingernails dragging across ice. He spun around. The wooden door at the top slammed shut, pitch black. Aaron turned back toward the children. His flashlight flickered once, and in the moment of darkness between flickers, something massive moved in the chamber. A shape, tall, wrong, antlered. When the light came back on, it was inches from his face, and all the children whispered together. For the one you lost, the flashlight died. The tunnel went silent. Snow fell outside the station for the rest of the night. The next morning, officers found the wooden box still open on Aaron's desk, but the wooden reindeer was gone, and in its place, a small familiar mitten, red, child-sized, resting quietly on the chair where Aaron once sat. Before we move on to the next story, give us your verdict on this one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Every December, the residents of Snow Pine Lodge looked forward to the Winter Eve Festival, a tradition the mountain town had kept for nearly 80 years. Families filled the cabins, children raced up and down the snowy hills, and the lodge glowed with candles, evergreen garlands, and the smell of hot cider. For most people, it was magical. For Nora Whitfield, it was a reminder. Her husband, Owen, disappeared during the festival 2 years earlier. They had been staying in cabin 6, the one closest to the woods. Owen stepped outside for just a second to take a phone call. When Nora went to check on him, she found only his footprints leading into the trees, and a single set of footprints leading back out. She had never seen footprints like that before. Too narrow, too long, toes slightly pointed, almost human. Almost. No one believed her. They blamed the storm. They blamed the altitude. Some blamed grief. But every Christmas since, Nora returned to the lodge, stayed in the same cabin, left the light on for Owen, prayed for anything, any sign of what had happened. This year she came alone. The snowstorm hit harder than any in decades, trapping the guests inside the lodge. The power went out just after midnight, and the staff handed out lanterns and blankets. Everyone gathered around the massive stone fireplace except Nora, who slipped back to cabin 6, lantern in hand. She couldn't explain it. Something had been pulling at her all night, a feeling she recognized, a presence she hadn't felt in years. The moment she stepped into the cabin, she heard it. 3 taps on the back window, not on the glass, on the wood frame. Slow, rhythmic, familiar. Nora froze. Her breath fogged the air. The lantern flickered. Tap, tap, tap. She turned. The window overlooked the tree line. Snow drifted against the glass, thick and swirling. Nothing moved outside. Then, a shadow. Tall, thin, standing just past the tree line, its outline blurred by the storm. "Owen?" she whispered. The shadow stepped closer, slowly, deliberately. Nora opened the window latch, hands trembling. A blast of icy wind slammed into her, scattering the lantern flame. "Hello?" she called into the white darkness. The shadow froze. Then something emerged from the storm. Not a person, not fully. A figure stepped into view, its head bowed, shoulders hunched, skin pale blue, lips cracked and bleeding. Snowflakes clung to long, tangled hair. It looked like Owen. It looked exactly like the moment she saw him last, except his eyes were glazed with frost, reflecting the lantern light like glass. He reached out a trembling hand. Nora sobbed. "Owen, my God, Owen, you're alive?" A crackling sound escaped his throat as he opened his mouth. "Cold." The word broke apart like ice snapping. Then his jaw widened too far, like something was pulling it open from behind. Nora gasped. "Owen, Owen, what?" A second shape appeared behind him. Taller, thinner, its limbs too long, its body blending with the whiteout like a dark branch. It held Owen upright by the shoulders, pushing him forward like a puppet. Nora stumbled backward. Owen's head snapped upward, staring at her with frozen, unblinking eyes. "Inside," he croaked. "Let me... inside." The taller figure leaned close, its face still hidden by the storm. Nora slammed the window shut. The figure moved instantly, slamming both hands onto the glass with inhuman force. The wood frame cracked, the lantern went out. The cabin plunged into darkness. Nora crawled backward, hands shaking uncontrollably. The glass began to frost over from the outside. Thick white ice spread across it like veins. A distorted face pressed against the window. Not Owen's. A smile, thin, stretched, wrong, formed in the ice. Then she heard it. A whisper. A voice that sounded like Owen's, and something else layered underneath. "Let us in. It's Christmas." She screamed for help and ran toward the door, but the door wouldn't open. Frost had sealed it shut. Voices rose outside the cabin, hundreds of whispers drifting through the storm, circling the lodge. "Cold, cold, cold." Nora pressed herself into a corner and covered her ears. The whispers grew louder. The window cracked. A long black shape poked through the split, feeling blindly along the wall. Something like an arm, but bent in impossible angles. Nora screamed again. Footsteps thundered toward her cabin. The lodge caretaker forced the door open with 2 staff members. They pulled her out just as the window shattered inward, shards of ice bursting across the room. They slammed the door behind them and dragged Nora through the storm. She didn't stop sobbing, not even when they reached the safety of the lodge. not even after the caretaker wrapped her in blankets. "What did you see?" he asked gently. Nora trembled uncontrollably, but the caretaker's expression turned grim when she whispered her answer. Owen said he wanted to come inside." The caretaker sighed, rubbing his eyes. "Every year," he murmured, "someone lost to the mountain tries to come home for Christmas." Nora stared at him, horrified. "What do you mean, someone?" The caretaker nodded solemnly. "You're not the first one to hear the knocking." Outside, the storm howled, clawing at the windows. And somewhere in the blizzard, a voice called out, dragging her name through the freezing wind. "Nora!" Before we move on to the next story, give us your verdict on this one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. The Evergreen Mall had always been the heart of the town's Christmas season. Every December, it transformed into a glowing wonderland. Lights draped over balconies, giant ornaments hanging from the atrium ceiling, speakers playing soft holiday music on loop. Families shopped late into the night while children lined up for photos with Santa. But after the renovation last year, something changed. Security guards reported hearing footsteps in the closed upper level. Cleaners found wet footprints leading into locked storage rooms. And several employees quit after seeing a tall man in red wandering hallways that had no cameras. Management blamed stress. Holiday rush. Nothing more. On December 22nd, Mia Lawson was called in for a late-night cleaning shift. She didn't mind. Extra Christmas pay meant she could buy her son the bike he wanted. The mall was closed, lights dimmed, only the echo of her vacuum following her as she worked her way from one end of the food court to the other. Around 1:14 a.m., she heard a sound. Not holiday music, not footsteps. A laugh. A soft, broken chuckle drifting from the north hallway, the recently renovated wing. Mia paused, turning off the vacuum. "Hello? Security?" No response. The laugh came again, light and playful, but wrong. Like someone trying to imitate a laugh they had never practiced before. She grabbed her cart and pushed it forward. The hallway lights flickered as she approached. A cold breeze drifted out from the dark corridor, carrying the faint smell of pine and something metallic underneath. "Hello?" she called again, voice trembling. A soft jingle echoed in reply, like sleigh bells. Mia felt her stomach flip. The renovation team had sealed off most of this wing. Half the stores weren't open yet, and security avoided it because the cameras often shorted out here. She reached the Christmas display area, a massive Santa throne surrounded by fake snow and lit reindeer. But the lights were dimmer than usual, casting long shadows across the decorations. Then she noticed it. A man sitting on the throne. At first she thought it was just the Santa mannequin the mall used for decor. But this figure was taller, much taller. His legs stretched too far forward, boots too long, torso strangely elongated as if pulled upward. And he was breathing. Slowly, deeply, a faint puff of frost escaping from under the beard. Mia whispered, "Sir, the mall is closed. You can't be here." The figure didn't move. Then his head snapped toward her with a sudden rigid jerk. Not turned. Snapped. The beard shifted slightly as he smiled. But it wasn't the jolly Santa smile she expected. His teeth were sharp. Jagged. Some broken. Some too long. Some pointed inward like shards of glass. His voice came out low and wet, like air pushing through old pipes. "Have you been good this year?" Mia stumbled back, crashing into her cart. The man rose from the throne, too tall to stand upright. His head nearly hit the hanging ornaments above. He stepped forward, but Mia realized he wasn't stepping. His feet dragged, leaving long scratches in the artificial snow. Something else was moving him, pulling him. His arms dangled uselessly as if boneless, but his chest expanded unnaturally with every breath. "Please, Mia whispered, backing up. "Please don't come closer." He tilted his head. Another laugh bubbled from his throat, this time deeper, layered with something else beneath it. Something hungry. He whispered, "I bring gifts." He lifted one hand slowly. In it was a small wrapped present, paper old and faded, tied with a brittle red ribbon. He extended it toward Mia. She shook her head violently. "No, keep away from me." The present fell open. Inside lay a small frozen hand. A child's hand, fingers curled as if reaching for help. Mia screamed and ran. The lights above her exploded one by one as she sprinted down the hallway, each pop echoing like gunshots. Decorations swayed violently, though there was no wind. Bells jingled somewhere behind her as the tall figure dragged itself forward, its breath rattling across the walls. She rushed into the security office. "There's someone. There's something in the display area. Lock the doors. Call the police." The two guards exchanged glances, confused, worried. One stood. "Ma'am, calm down." A violent crash shook the office. All three turned. The mall intercom crackled to life. Then a voice whispered through every speaker. "Ho, ho, ho." The guards froze. Another crash, closer this time. The emergency lights flickered red. The security monitors fizzed with static. Then each screen showed the same thing. A tall, distorted Santa figure on every camera angle, standing perfectly still, staring directly into each lens. The guards grabbed their radios and backed toward the emergency exit. Mia whispered, "Please, please hurry." The radio crackled with a deeper voice. "You're on my list." The emergency door handle began to freeze over, frost crawling across the steel surface. A giant shadow moved outside the frosted window, too tall, too thin, dragging something heavy behind it. The guards shoved the door open with their shoulders. Mia bolted into the parking lot, slipping on ice, tears streaming down her face. Behind them, the mall lights blinked once, twice, then went completely dark. The next morning, police arrived. Every Christmas decoration in the mall was shredded. The Santa throne was overturned, and in the center of the fake snow they found something. A single small wrapped gift, cold to the touch, with a tag, "For Mia." Inside was a tiny wooden toy, hand-carved, painted red. A smiling Santa figurine, except its legs were far too long, and its face was carved into a wide, sharp grin. Mia never returned to the mall again. But every Christmas since, she receives a single wrapped present on her doorstep, always tied with the same faded red ribbon. Before we move on to the next story, give us your verdict on this one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. The Pinecrest retirement home was quiet on Christmas Eve. Snowflakes drifted past the windows like tiny white sparks, settling on the railings and frozen garden paths. Most families had already visited earlier in the day, leaving the halls silent except for distant televisions and the beeping of medical monitors. Nurse Emily Carter didn't mind the night shift. The elderly residents loved her, and Christmas Eve usually passed peacefully. But this year, something was different. The moment she stepped inside, she felt it, an odd heaviness in the air, like the building was holding its breath. The lights flickered, the thermostat dropped without warning, and several residents complained about someone walking the halls, even though they were all accounted for. At 10:42 p.m., she was doing rounds when she heard a soft jingle behind her. A single bell, not from the TV, not from any decoration. This sound was older, metallic, resonant, like a bell forged decades ago. Emily turned. The hallway was empty. She checked the decorations. Nothing had bells. The hallway trees were bare. The wreaths were simple pine. Nothing should have made that sound. She shook it off and walked toward room 209, Mr. Hollander's room. He was 87, kind, quiet, and always awake late reading Christmas classics. She knocked gently. "Mr. Hollander, it's Emily." Silence. She opened the door slowly. Mr. Hollander sat upright in bed, eyes wide open, breathing fast. His hand trembled as he pointed toward the window. "He's outside," he whispered. "He found me." Emily frowned. "Who?" Mr. Hollander squeezed his eyes shut. "I didn't mean to leave him out there. I didn't know he'd follow." Emily approached the window. She regretted it instantly. A figure stood in the snow by the tree line. Tall, thin, wearing an old-fashioned coat dusted in frost, the fur collar dark with age. A long red scarf trailed behind him like a strip of blood. He held a lantern glowing a weak, dying orange. Emily whispered, "Is that someone lost?" Mr. Hollander shook violently. "He came for me last Christmas. I didn't answer, so he waited." Emily turned back to him. "Who is he?" Mr. Hollander swallowed hard. "The caroler." The figure stepped forward, not walked, glided across the snow, each movement smooth and unnatural. The lantern flickered with each glide. Emily backed away from the window. "I'm calling security." Before she could move, the lights cut out. The entire retirement home plunged into darkness. Silence. Then, a deep humming echoed through the hallway. Low, slow. A melody dragged out in long, guttural tones. A Christmas carol. But sung wrong. Emily felt her stomach twist. It was "Oh, Come All Ye Faithful," but the notes were warped, pitch shifting unnaturally, like someone singing through cracked, frozen lungs. Mr. Hollander whimpered, "Don't let him in. Don't answer him." A knock. At the window. 1, 2, 3. Emily turned. The figure stood inches from the glass, face obscured by frost and shadow. His hand pressed against the window pane, fingers long and crooked. The lantern cast a sickly glow over his face, a face that wasn't human. The eyes were sunken, sockets rimmed with ice. The mouth stretched too wide, lips cracked and torn. Teeth darkened like old wood. The humming grew louder. Emily grabbed Mr. Hollander. "We have to go." They rushed into the pitch-black hallway. Emergency lights flickered red, painting the walls with long shadows. The humming followed, then the jingle of a bell. Far away at first, then closer. Closer. Emily pulled Mr. Hollander toward the elevator, but the power was too unstable. The doors wouldn't close. She dragged him toward the stairwell instead. A shadow appeared at the far end of the corridor. The caroler. He held the lantern low, humming louder now. The sound vibrated through the floorboards and into Emily's bones. His body swayed slightly as he moved, lantern flickering wildly. Mr. Hollander sobbed. "I hear him. I hear him in my head." Emily clamped her hands over his ears. "Don't listen, don't look at him." But she looked, for just a moment. The caroler stopped, tilted his head, smiled. Then he whispered, voice layered, echoing, "Faithful." Emily yanked Mr. Hollander into the stairwell. They stumbled down the steps, nearly falling on the icy concrete. The humming grew louder, bouncing down the stairwell like a choir of one. When they reached the first floor, the stairwell door slammed open on its own. A cold wind surged in. The caroler stood outside the entrance window, lantern dimming, head snapping toward them like a puppet under strings. Emily dragged Mr. Hollander to the lobby. She grabbed the phone, but the lines were dead. Snow blew violently against the entrance doors, fogging the glass. A silhouette approached, slow, gliding, lantern barely lit. Mr. Hollander collapsed to his knees. "I can't outrun him. I left him calling in the cold. I left him alone." Emily knelt beside him. "What do you mean?" Mr. Hollander sobbed into his hands. "We were children. He knocked on our door singing carols, and my father locked him out. He froze on our steps. I never forgot his face. And every Christmas Eve, he comes back for me. A long shadow fell across the lobby floor. The caroler stood outside. He pressed his face to the glass, mouth opening wider than any human jaw could. Frost erupted across the inside of the doors. The humming stopped. Silence. Then, the doors burst open. Wind howled through the lobby. Papers flew. The lantern's dying flame cast grotesque shadows on the walls. Emily screamed and pulled Mr. Hollander behind a counter. The caroler drifted inside, head twitching, arms limp, lantern swinging. His mouth slowly closed, then stretched into a thin, horrific smile. He reached toward the counter. Mr. Hollander whispered, "I'm sorry." The caroler stopped, then nodded. Once, lights flickered, snow whirled, and he was gone. The front door slammed shut. The temperature rose slowly. The humming faded into nothing. Emily peeked over the counter. Nothing remained except the lantern, lying on its side, flame finally dead. Mr. Hollander died 2 days later in his sleep. On Christmas morning, Emily found a small package outside the retirement home entrance. Inside was a single jingle bell, old, rusted, cold as ice. When she shook it, it didn't ring, but she heard humming. Far away, getting closer. If you made it this far, thank you for spending your night with us. If these stories gave you chills, there's plenty more waiting. Don't forget to subscribe to NightFear Stories for new terrifying tales every single night. Sleep well, if you can.